Welcome to From the Ashes, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast all about Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Bear witness to the rebirth of the MMORPG genre from the ashes of an industry that has left the gamers behind. I'm Aggelos, and this is episode 6 to everything there is a season of From the Ashes, and I am joined by the one, the only, the amazing Thais.
How are you? Wow, that was a great intro.
Well, yeah, just so you know, they caught your little...
Oh, that's
I'm keeping it in, too.
That's cool. You can keep it in. I'm okay with that.
Excellent, excellent. So, again, if you guys have not been following, this is episode 6, and this is our Pillars of Creation, which is kind of like our Good Morning American-style talk show, where I guess that would make me Regis, wouldn't it?
Yeah, unless you want to be Kelly.
I guess I could be Kelly if I wanted to
Cool,
be.
I'll be Regis.
Okay, you're Regis and I'm Kelly. Yeah, so we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about some of the different topics within Ashes of Creation, as well as we got our first letter for the mailbag to go over. So we're going to do that as well. All right, so first thing we did is during your news segment that you had, you announced that Intrepid Studios went ahead and hired a bunch of new people into their ever-growing number of staff over there at Intrepid. And I know when you did the Ashen news segment, you were kind of worried about how to pronounce their names. So I'm not going to make you pronounce any of them, and I'm going to do it.
Oh, good. You butcher them this time.
It's actually okay, because...
you don't speak well anyway?
Well, that, and the fact that I've listened to some other streamers and stuff announce similar things and mention these people, and I've not found one person who has pronounced the name the same way. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting.
We need a pronunciation key.
We should. The phonics were not included in the press release. So first off, we had Rocco Scandizo, the lead economic designer, being hit. Now, this one is actually something that really excites me. Because it is pretty amazing when you actually have someone with an economics background brought into a game like this because of the economic nature of how the game's going to be. It's not going to be like other MMOs that have stagnant economies because of geared decay, the scarcity of resources coming into the world. So having somebody who could help manage the economy is something that really excited me, because that is something that needed to be done. And I believe I can only think of 2 other games that actually have economists on staff, and that would be EVE Online, which shares a lot of similarities in concept to Ashes of Creation, and Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 actually has a full-time economist on staff.
Really? Because I was going to make mention to the fact that I hope the game does not go in the way of Guild Wars 2, where the economy is just crap all across the board, because everything is the entire game wide makes it really hard to make money, makes it hard to farm, because everything is so readily available. Oh, wow, it's really odd you said that.
Well, the thing is, they have somebody on staff because...
who's not doing their job?
You know, I would say the same thing, but actually that is what they're monitoring. And prices actually have not fluctuated much, regardless.
Then why am I still po?
Well, that's you. That's why you're poor in Guild Wars 2. But this game does not have any... Well, you know, it's funny you said that, because Guild Wars 2 has the one auction house to rule them all across every server, okay? It actually just uses a web interface. So you can actually see there's websites like Guild Wars 2 Spidey and stuff that actually monitor the entire sales board, because it has a front-facing API, or a front-facing API. But this game, and what makes it unique, is that there's not even going to be a server-wide auction house. Everything is region-based.
Node to node, right?
Node to node, with the exception of the economic nodes as they level up. Apparently, their sphere of influence can be farther, and we don't know much about how that's going to work yet. But economic nodes, because their base is the economy, they're going to change how they interfere with others and interact with other nodes to allow for possibly a larger economic board. But the economic board is still only going to be contained within the zone of influence for that economic node, not actually have anything to do with the entire server. So there can only be 5 metropolises on a given server, right? So even if all 5 happen to be economic nodes, depending on the size of the world, it's still, I think that would be the closest you could get to a server-wide auction house. But until we get into alpha and know how the nodes are going to raise up and actually interact with one another and how far a zone of influence extends from any given node, not just an economic node, we don't know how far that reach will actually be. So having economists on staff to help monitor the health and flow per server would be kind of interesting. And I'm actually really curious to see how crafting commodities are actually going to rise and fall depending on what's happening on a server. One thing that I could, just like in real life, and for those who are watching the show, here's the cat. Everyone keeps saying, "Show off the cat." Here she is. Yes. Okay. All right, she's done now. Everyone keeps saying I should bring the cat on the show, but apparently she's like usurping me in popularity.
Can we bring the good cat on the show at least?
Well, if he would show up. He doesn't show up though. She's the only one who shows up.
He's right there.
All right, the other cat's up there. So if he walks across, you can bring him on. Okay. But I forget where I was going with that before the cat showed up.
I don't remember either. All I can think about is cats now.
Real life, the price of commodities go up and down depending on the economic situations on that server, such as during wartime. And this is very evident during, say, World War II, a very large conflict that happened, whereas the prices of certain things went through the roof because there was a scarcity of them during that time. Gasoline was one that, at least in the U.S., shot up, and there was even rationing for it because so much was being sent overseas. Same with lead prices for manufacture, copper prices, brass for the manufacture of small arms. Things like that affected the price of everyday goods because there was a scarcity now. You were exporting more than that you were maintaining. And there's the other cat. Oh, there he is. Look at him. Hi. Yeah, so for everyone who wanted to know, there's our cats.
That's Titus, the good cat. He's a dog cat.
She's a dog cat. So yeah, that's going to be kind of interesting. The other big name that they brought in is Kevin McPherson.
Wait, I have something to say about the economist. Would that be correct? Economist. It seems for setting up the systems, having an economist would be extremely beneficial. But I don't see the point of having him around once the game is in action, because monitoring the economy, okay, cool, you can watch it do its economy thing. What if something's happening that you don't want? What exactly would he do?
He could report said fluctuation in market prices to developers and go, listen, guys, we're just going to throw something here and here. For instance, price of mithril bars has shot through the roof right now. So it's really, really rare. They're not having as much of it. It's here. And you can look at it going, well, why, at that point, developers can look at it and go, why did this happen? Is there a war going on, right? Did a large node or guild that owned a node or an alliance or whatever that owned a very popular mining area or a vein, did it dry up and no one's found another one? Is there a bug in the code? Is there something like we need to spawn more mithril in the world because for some odd reason there is not enough? These types of things that you can keep track of and trends will help the game balance out its economy so that one server, you don't want to hit a point in the game where the economy is so backwards. And I mean, this happened in, the U.S., obviously we're both American, but it happened in the U.S. during the Great Depression when everything fell out. All right, like the bottom happened and like the bottom fell out and everything happened. The only people who could afford to do anything were the super rich who already had a lot of money, right? Because everything else shot up. there wasn't enough work to go around. People weren't getting paid, so the people who had money could still afford whatever it is that they wanted to buy, but no one else could. That type of situation here on a server would mean that only the rich that already are rich would be able to continue to play, and that, I don't want to say continue to play, to be able to play effectively, because any player who was coming in who possibly would not have those cash reserves would then find themselves of, my sword broke, I can't afford anything else. What can I do? I can't do anything right now because I can't afford to repair my own equipment.
And then that's where, you come in because I broke my sword and I have no money.
So I'm the already pre-established rich guy. I see. Okay. In which case, I'm sure we could set up some sort of, trade agreement. No. But with that being said, From the Ashes does not condone prostitution. Neither does no. But that's that kind of thing will happen, like in this game, based on what you need. If I need ore A, but I have no access to it for whatever reason, either A, I'm not high enough level, I'm not able to bypass whatever kind of environment challenge it is, whether it be monsters, a dungeon, or a raid, or even just access to an entire area because it's controlled by another enemy guild, then I have to make deals with the people who have it, going, hey, I have some of this, you don't have it, I want some of that, let's work out a deal. It could even be something along the lines of not even physical, but if you are part of a large, such as, let's say, a PvP guild, you can hire yourselves out as mercenaries, or you could hire yourself out as a thug, essentially. Like protection money. You have to pay me protection money so that I don't raid you. I think they call that tribute. But the concept exists, right? Like that kind of thing will indeed happen with these types of games because of the emergent gameplay that exist within them.
Okay, next guy.
Kevin McPherson. Now, I follow a lot of MMOs, obviously. I mean, Dungeon Crawler Network, we have our general MMO show. We've been following a lot. Kevin McPherson is a name that I've heard a lot before, mostly because of EverQuest 1 and 2. He's been in the industry for a very long time. His name is up there with the Mark Jacobses and the Brad McQuaids. Maybe not up on that producer level, but still at a point where you know his name when you hear him, because he's been in the industry for just so very long. And he's worked on some of the largest titles that have been out there. I mean, EverQuest 1 was revolutionary in the MMO genre. I mean, people essentially lost their lives to EverQuest 1. EverQuest 2, maybe not so much. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's the point. PlanetSide 1 and 2, Vanguard, while it wasn't the best in terms of... I think a lot of its programming and it was rushed out too early. It wasn't quite ready. The concepts in Vanguard or something people still talk about to this day. Still going, this is something that I wish other games had, like their diplomacy system, which is something that everyone's like, I wish that my game had diplomacy, but it doesn't, So that's going to be kind of interesting. So it's neat to see him in this game.
And what was his title?
He is a lead programmer. So, with that being, he's going to be one of the code monkeys. Code monkey. Akil Hooper, another name I've heard before, but not quite as often. It's still up there. He was working on the EverQuest franchise as well. Sony Online Entertainment, Obsidian Entertainment, Disney Interactive. With Disney Interactive, I think Disney Interactive shut down. I think they did.
Hey, we love Disney. Don't even knock it.
No.
We love Disney.
Disney's one thing. Disney Interactive, I don't think is still around. I might be wrong on that, but after their one of their last games, Disney Infinity or whatever, they're just not around anymore. That kind of went across. Now, both Matt Broom, I've not heard of him before. And Alex, of course, is new. Alex Cadoli is new. So I mean, I don't even know if he was in the game genre or in the game industry. He was just a programmer. Now Amazon is a huge company, which is pretty neat. But he is just a programmer, not just a programmer, because I mean, I do technical related stuff. I suck at programming, so I know how difficult it is. But this feels like this is his first foray into the gaming industry. So, I mean,
It's a good game to get started on, I think.
definitely. And I don't have this on the notes, but it was actually kind of funny because Ashes of Creation showed up on CBS today, like the TV show, the TV station CBS, and they had an interview showing how well that they did. It was just a short little clip of the success of Kickstarter, but it was actually kind of neat to see Ashes of Creation in a mainstream way, right? Just like, wow, you know, I don't know how useful it was overall, because it was very, very basic. Because obviously the guy who was interviewing, he's a news correspondent. He's like, I don't really play video games or anything of that nature. You're gonna have to break this down for me. It's neat that the name got a lot of exposure in the non-gaming sector. I don't know how much good it's actually going to do, because I can tell you as a gamer myself, being very internet heavy, I can't even note the last time I've actually watched a news show that, you know, it's not like CNN.com or something, you know. That's where I get my news. Excuse me, I need a drink there. You know, I don't know how good it'll do. Like, will it bring other gamers in? A few maybe, but I don't think it's gonna bring in as many as, I don't know, if it were done in a gaming sector, not mainstream. Thoughts? No thoughts?
When you said that they did a segment on television, you said that they were doing something for Kickstarter, and they happened to mention Ashes of Creation.
No. Jeffrey Bard and Stephen Sharif were on, like, essentially not Good Morning America, but, you know, like sitting across from an interviewer talking about the success of Ashes of Creation in Kickstarter.
Oh.
But they were talking about the game, you know, in a very low level, like for someone who's never really played an MMO before, but at a very
people
low
that
level.
are people that are older than us still tend to watch news on television, especially older gamers. People who are older, they tend to do that. It's just, I don't know, once you hit a certain age, you watch news on television for some reason, and you happen to know everybody on the planet. So it's quite possible that having that on television reached people who played a lot of the old MMOs, and it could really bring some people into the game, which would be amazing to have some of them older games brought back into the gaming community. I think, you know, those were the generation of the amazing gamers, the ones who worked their butts off to get things that they wanted in game.
True, but I mean, in that same vein, a lot of those, move my mic a little bit. A lot of those older gamers are also I don't want to say past that point in their life, because we're not. We're something that we're older now, and we continue to play games.
You're older.
Okay, fine. I'm the older one. I'm fine with this. But this type of more, I want to say, hardcore game may not appeal to someone who does not have a strong community. I know we had some questions last time about what can a casual do in the game, and I do believe there will be things for casuals to do, but I think the thing that casuals will need to know is they're going to need some sort of social structure to assist them. They're not going to be solo casual, because if you're solo casual, you're probably not going to make or accomplish a lot of goals, whatever those goals may be.
I think if I remember correctly, which I might actually be wrong, across a couple different games, there is a guild called Old Timers, which is made up mostly of older gamers.
Yep.
So that's always a possibility. I think that it's good because it got some airtime. I think it's really good. I do.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's definitely not a bad thing. I wanted to bring it up because while it was neat, I
It
just
is neat.
yeah, it's more neat the fact that when you see something that
You're a part of on
they
television.
yes, there you go. I think I said
Yeah,
that to you
you
on
feel like a little bit like it was you, like, awesome, yeah, I was on television, you know? I
I
know all
actually
about that.
I said that to you on Sunday too because we were just watching TV a little bit and the Elder Scrolls Online commercial for Morrowind came on. I'm like, this is on AMC or whatever, and it was just neat to see. So it definitely was very cool, and I'm glad to see that going forward. All right, so we're going to move into our next sections here, which is something that we want to talk about. We picked up two topics that we wanted to sit down and talk about. First off, seasons in the game. Now, obviously, this is something that will be in the game that we've seen several times. Specifically on one of the last live streams, Steven showed off the gameplay of them running around and kind of giggled like a little schoolgirl when he saw the lake was frozen over. And Jeffrey was quick to say, you already went off script. You're 10 seconds in and you're already off script. He's like, yeah, I know. But look, you can walk across this river because it's frozen, right? So now, Thais, I know after you saw that video, because I was watching it while we were taking care of our son, and I said, I got to put this on stream because I want to watch this. So I put it on, and I think you were feeding Ezra or something like that, and you messaged me going, we're talking seasons next episode.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts? Why did you want to talk about seasons?
That's something that hasn't been done in an MMO before, at least not that I can think of, not one that I've played, I don't know. But it hasn't been done. And to put a system like this in any game is huge. There's a lot to consider. There's a lot of different mechanisms that have to be thought of. And there's just so much that can go with this. And the biggest one that I'm thinking of is winter, because it's also my favorite season. So when I think of fighting in winter, I think of I'm attacking something, I'm slipping. If I'm running around, there's trees are white and beautiful, and I imagine them in game glowing under the sun. I imagine snow falling and caking on my armor. Like, these are things that I think of when I think of seasons in a game. And to find out that this game has seasons, it's like, oh my gosh, all these things that I think of when playing in winter is a possibility. How pretty it'll be, and to be able to walk across a frozen lake and, maybe it's thin and I fall. I mean, that's not quite a possibility, but to be able to walk across a lake that's frozen and not have to go around it or not have to swim and maybe, slip. Will my character be slipping on the ice?
And this is something that I want to preface this by saying all this is
Speculation.
I don't want to even say speculation because it's things we've been told before, things that they want to do. But as you said, other than in single player games, like you've been playing Breath of the Wild a lot, and weather does affect.
I was going to get to that.
Okay, well, I'll leave you with that. It does affect your character. It hasn't really been seen in an MMO. They have said that the type of weather should affect gameplay, and whether or not they can pull this off, talking about things of possibly having to dress warm in cold weather, possibly having paths that again, I'm going to go back to Guild Wars 2 because I've been playing that a lot lately. Those convenient paths, those valleys between zones that have the portal you go through. They talked about paths possibly being blocked off by an avalanche because you can't make it through in winter. Whereas paths also open up, like once upon a time, man, you couldn't swim that river. It was too deep. There were, I don't know, pulling some ESO in here, slaughterfish in the water. But during winter, when it's frozen over, you can do this.
Oh my God.
Yes, they have mentioned that weather will affect. Possibly if it's raining, fireball spells may be less effective or fizzle out, because it's wet. Likewise, electricity. If you had electricity.
I'm going to pee myself out of excitement right now.
All right. Now, you were saying Breath of the Wild.
Yes. So I've been praying. I've been playing Breath of the Wild for, I don't know, over a month now. I've been forever. I've been pretty obsessed with it. If I'm not playing Breath of the Wild, I'm thinking of it. And one of the things that they have in there is rain. And rain is pretty interesting because in Breath of the Wild you can climb virtually anything except when it's raining. When it's raining, you can't climb anything because everything is slippery. And your character kind of gives off this little shine, like you're splashing and like everything is wet. Even the NPCs react to the fact that it's raining. And if you talk to them when it's dry out or when it's raining, they'll say different things. They run and hide inside. It's just the weather. There's no seasons, but there's the weather in it, the heat. You're panting, you're hot, you're a little flushed, you're sunburned if you're outside too long. Just all these different elements that they added to the weather in this game is just something that I haven't seen before, and it's so exciting and it's new. So when I found out there were seasons in Ashes of Creation, all these tiny elements that I see in Breath of the Wild, it's something that I would hope to see in an MMO of this caliber. Because it would just make the game so much more immersive. Isn't that the word we were talking about before? So much more immersive. It would add so much more. All these tiny little details that wouldn't actually be tiny. There'd be a lot of work going into it. But just to see some of them appear in this game, they would blow every other game ever out of the water. But I really want them to focus on winter. Just make winter awesome.
Make winter great again, apparently. So,
Yes.
yeah, that is a thing.
If they did if they did like summer, like make your character flush when you're outside, you know? Just I'm just seasons has me very, very excited. There's so much you can do. In the fall, make trees, change color and have the ground just littered with, reds and orange and brown leaves. It's just the possibilities are endless if you're considering seasons.
Yeah, do me a favor and mute your mic there for a second when I'm getting a little bit of feedback I'm seeing back here. So there you go, perfect. We're on video, we can see each other, so we know when we want to talk. That's fine. I was just getting a little bit of feedback, and I want to make sure that doesn't pick up too much on the podcast. I've been muting down here, obviously.
Is that why you're muting? Because I'm over here going, what is he doing?
Yes, that is why I'm muting. Just because I noticed it a second ago that we were getting a little bit of feedback. These microphones are amazing, but they pick up every little sound. Yeah. That is something that really does fascinate me, is watching you play Breath of the Wild and go, wow, the idea of seeing your person shiver and going, I can't walk up this mountain because it's cold. I'm not gonna make it. And it is something that was kind of neat because it created a gameplay element where you had to go back and get the proper equipment just like you would in real life.
The snow even crunches when you're walking across it. Like they made just that tiny adjustment. That sound is just so fantastic.
There we go. No, I was going to say a good sound. And this is actually something I believe Asari, who Errant Penman himself, and also one of my co-hosts here for the Dungeon Crawlers podcast, made note of don't neglect good sound. I mean, obviously, I just pretty much said to Thais, mute your mic because sound is important. Make an enjoyable experience, the better the sound quality. It is more immersive than you would think. He made mention to the way trebuchets sound in ESO. It just feels good compared to some other games where it's like, I hit the button, I hear a little sound, whatever. But the sound engineers really went above and beyond when it came to that production.
That makes me think of Guild Wars 2's trebuchet sounds versus ESO's. Even that little difference, ESO's is superior.
Absolutely. All right, so that was our seasons discussion. I mean, it's fascinating. I really want to see what's going to happen. I know before we move on to the next little part, you did say about how seasons were going to work, and as of now, they tentatively were more or less saying that how seasons are going to work is during a server reset. So whatever that may be, weekly, I don't know how, we're just going to base off almost every other game, which has been weekly maintenance resets, is when the seasons are going to change in the given areas. Now, here's a question that I kind of curious about. Depending on the size of the world and seasons, I wonder if seasons are going to be more effective in certain areas than others. Just like here in the real world, winter where we live is way harsher than winter in Florida or Texas or New Mexico. They in Texas they get an inch of snow and they shut down the entire state because they're not prepared for that kind of thing. Up where we live, they don't shut down the state for hardly anything. And then my cousins who lived up in Michigan, there'd be a foot of snow on the ground. They're like, we go out and do donuts in the parking lot with a foot of snow. Like, what we thought was bad to them was nothing because they're even further north than us. I'm curious to see whether or not seasons, depending on the geographical region of a zone, if it will all affect, or if the entire server is just going to be winter one day. You know what I mean?
That makes me really happy to hear because that means in 1 month you'll have all 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good time frame for the seasons. I do, and give people a chance to not get bored of a particular season or to not really get frustrated at a particular season. If it really is weekly, that's like the perfect time frame.
Gotcha. All right, so another big thing that you wanted to talk about, and this is fun that we have you here, is the silhouettes were revealed for the new race. And actually, I think I sent you some other things that were brought in. Now, the silhouettes, we've been hearing some different stuff. Like the silhouettes we first saw that they showed off were actually being used as monster silhouettes. So maybe not everything is actually going to be the same that we see in the game with the new race, the Tulnar, which is the Forgotten, as you so eloquently put in the Ashen news. Now, they did that second set of sketches that I sent to you, obviously, was something a little bit more akin to what we were going to see, that these Tulnar being a culmination of all the different races, both major and minor, that were left behind. So there could be some human and elven blood in there, as well as possibly minor races being mixed in. And obviously seeing some of the more reptilian, almost some even arachnid style stuff, I'm wondering if we're going to see some minor races that are more of lizard folk or spider folk or even rat folk. You know what I mean?
Do you want me to get into this now?
I'm going to let you just go nuts.
Okay,
I'm going to let
awesome.
you go nuts with this.
Cool. I was originally very excited about this underground race. When I think of an underground race, I think of voles, I think of mice, rats, maybe a type of lizard. That's what you think of when you think underground. I was excited, but my excitement has since extinguished. Upon seeing the sketches, I think the only thing I said to Ag was, that is a mess. It's a mess. When realistically you think of people leaving a planet, it makes sense that they leave certain pieces of races behind. They're not just going to collectively leave an entire race. That makes sense. But making all these different races come together and evolve and adjust together, that just to me makes no sense. That is not a race. That is just a collection of you don't even know what, because each race would have different things that they do, different economics, different styles. They would just be too different. And why would they live underground? If there's all these pieces of civilization on the surface left behind, they can just build up on their own. But they didn't. They pushed them all underground and said, grow together. And then to have this entire race have different attributes that you can add, that to me is just so odd, because these individual people wouldn't originally live underground. So why are they now underground? Just why? And why make them look?
I was gonna say, you're taking the lore that we know so far, and we don't know a whole lot. Remember, they were forced underground because, and you said about the civilization and stuff, civilization was essentially wiped out. Think of this as nuclear winter. All right. Like, whatever calamity that forced us to leave in the first place, like, when we all left, they're all sitting there holding the bag going, now what do we do? You know, quote unquote, nuclear radiation is everywhere. We have to hide underground. They weren't coming up. The only reason why they are coming up now is, let's just say that the returning people, and we don't know the time frame. Based on the one video, they were saying, you know, and the semantics of it made me question, because they're like, an eternity has passed. Well, an eternity is forever. So, but a very long time has passed. I mean, obviously, you need a long time of a lot of interbreeding to change the base characteristic of a race into something that is such a weird mixture, right? Like, you don't just breed once and the thing that pops out is completely different. Genetics don't work that way. And if genetics actually did work that way, the thing would probably die in a week because its body's not ready for that type of mutation. Most times, even here in reality, obviously, the genetic mutations are often not to the benefit of the person taking it. This is not X-Men here. You do not get a mutation and go, wow, I'm stronger for it. In most cases, it makes the host body weaker.
Which plays into the new sketches that we saw where they just look, I can't picture anybody I know playing that race because they're just so beastly looking. And I don't mean like, you know, just lamias or murlocs. Like they're kind of beastly, but at least they look okay on their own. But the new sketches, they look like demonic with weird mismatched parts. And how are the slider scales gonna work? And I have like a lizard head and like human legs, but like a rat tail and like weird bat wings. Like I was so excited for some type of normal underground inhabitants. But now that I see this, it's like, I can't.
Now, again, everything you're saying is purely subjective based on your taste. And with you going into this, you were, and I'm going to say it right off the bat, is you were more or less hoping for something more akin to, again, Guild Wars 2 and the Skrit, the mouse race, because you thought they were cute. But with that being cute, you already had something built up in your mind. I know quite a few people in the official Discord who are loving this, and even other Discords, they like this kind of bestial race.
Not just the Skrit. I like, honestly, I really would have been okay. Well, yeah, I would have been okay with anything that would have been normal for underground, because that makes sense to me, especially in MMO space. These are things you've seen, things you're used to, things that you expect. So some type of mole, like the Dwemer were underground elves, they all looked the same, like the rats, the Skrit. Things that were normal for underground had me excited because of the type of game that this is. I think that if they had done a type of mole people against all the other races, it would have been just really awesome. And I was really excited for that. So excited. And then I saw this and it's like, oh, not excited anymore.
Yeah, and I know the one thing that you mentioned before, and it's something that I kind of, and I'm thinking, I think this is neat. This is coming from a guy who only plays humans because I like humans, but I like humans. Those are the type of characters I like to make.
You're a human in real life.
I like who I am in real life. Okay, I'd
rather be a Sylvari in real life.
Yeah, I don't need to pretend to be something else. I like who I am in real life. I just wish I could cast magic and fight with swords. That's how I look at myself with an immersion player. Is I just pretend it's me in the world. I don't need to be someone else. But the thing that sets me off the most from this, and it will very much depend on how these sliders are going to work, because as you mentioned before, that you can adjust the attributes to bring different things up, whether it's be more reptilian, more mammalian in aspect, or even more humanoid. If the extremes of this are so extreme that, like, if you go straight lizard, you look like an Argonian, for instance, or if you go straight mammalian, you look like a rat, or humanoid, you look kind of like a human. Why is it one race and not multiple? Like, if there's too much variety, like you said, the thing that binds a race together is some sort of common attribute. This feels almost like, because, and again, it all depends on how extreme you can go, but if you can get too extreme, why even bother with one? If they're too vastly different, it's a different race altogether.
Speaking of just them being a race, because they would all be so different, especially if you have arachnid type people and lizard type people, human type people, they would all eat different things. I just realistically thinking of it, which the kid could never be real, but those little things in it are just making me just, it's a mess in my head.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to get some more in-depth overviews of the races over the next coming weeks, including all the different races, history, lore, etc., stories about who they were as a race, and hopefully a little bit more about the Tulnar over the next couple of weeks and months as we go forward, which will be really exciting. And I do expect to be doing some lore segments here in the future once we get a little bit more in-depth lore, because lore is something that is very important to me. But there we go. Our first initial thoughts of the Tulnar. The last thing we're going to do for this segment is we have a mailbag, which if anyone is interested in sending us mail, you can head over to our website, dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. Top of the page is to contact us. Hit the drop down, select the podcast you want to send a message, in this case from the Ashes, and send us questions or something you would like us to talk about. Because, hey, I mean, I have the next couple weeks planned for shows. But if you give me a good topic that you would like to hear us theorycraft, discuss, or whatever the case may be, definitely something that'd be kind of cool. So, I'm going to pull up this mail here. This is from Infernal Med. He's been watching our show for a little while now. He always comments, so that's pretty awesome. Thank you so much for that, sir. I'm going to try to read this, and we'll go from there. So he's sending us this message going... As we all know, Steven is a big role player, and his way of role playing is based on the lore. Now, he said he doesn't want to implement modern day or skimpy clothes into the game because it'll break immersion. Now, I'm the type of player who loves to change outfits based on the situation. I wear epic armor while PvPing or in a dungeon. I wear skimpy clothes while questing or having fun in an inn, for example. And I would wear undergarments while alone in my house, etc. Seeing someone in a weird outfit will not break the immersion for you, as most people, including Steven, think. It's just a player passing by. You still got your lore and your character the way that you wanted. As for those of us who like to wear non-lore friendly outfits, as for those of us who love to wear non-lore friendly outfits and it's not in the game, it's a missing piece of content for us and will affect our immersion a lot. Now, I really want to hear your opinion on that. Should the developers restrict a large part of the people who love to see large variety in outfits? The outfits are just something other players wear. It won't affect the world or the lore. Also, just to be clear, as I already said, I don't want to see full skimpy only outfits, just like, any other Korean MMO that's out there. But let's say out of 10 outfits, 8 lore friendly and 2 non-lore friendly. So that is from Infernal Med. Thais, what are your initial thoughts?
I'm on his side. I agree. I think that the one thing that really breaks immersion when it comes to outfits is the game's color palette. If you have a lot of muted colors, you don't want to see a bright yellow or a bright pink outfit. That would stand out more than just the outfit itself. I feel that a game should have a large variety of different outfits, not just armor, because a lot of people like to wear different things. Now, I don't wear a whole lot of skimpy armor, but I do like things that are more feminine. I do like, dresses, and I like, cute head things. Okay, I like cute outfits. I guess that's how I can put it. I like cute outfits. So when I play an MMO, I like seeing those types of things on my character, as long as it matches the color palette.
Now, see, and I'm of a different opinion. Skimpy outfits are one thing. I've been playing a lot of The Witcher, right? You can go into brothels all day. There's both men and women with their assets hanging out, and there's nothing quite wrong with that, right? Like, other than the skimpy outfits, obviously, they aim towards a very specific type of person, right? The person who likes just the people whose argument I like making a female character because I like to stare at her butt, right? Whatever your argument is for that, you are objectifying something in a sexual way. That's what you're doing. In lore specific cases, like such as a brothel, I mean, obviously you're paying to objectify somebody. You can do that as you will. Now, my problem is not so much the skimpy. I hate non-lore friendly outfits because the thing is, you're seeing someone walk around in like a Louis Vuitton something or Tommy Hilfiger, whatever the modern equivalent is. Denim does not exist at this point. I don't want to see skinny jeans in this game because that's something that, I'm sorry, it does not belong in the world. This is, again, my opinion. I'm not coming down on you. If that's something that you like, great, that's whatever. It would annoy the crap out of me to see non-lore friendly or any modern day anything in the game because it just doesn't fit the setting of the world. Anything that fits the setting of the world, if you want to go Witcher, you want to have your skimpy outfits, for your prostitutes or whatever the case may be, is go for it. I don't care. Just make it so that if you're wearing a skimpy outfit and you go out and fight, you have no armor protection. You got to make it somewhat realistic. If I'm sitting there in my open chest clothes showing off my goods, an arrow can also get to my goods fairly easily, and therefore, you should be penalized for doing something. And we've all seen the issue. I don't even know if it's an issue. Some people don't care, but it's something that turns me off of games like Black Desert Online or ArcAge, is just the insanity that is their outfit system. The random nonsense from them being Asian games, seeing someone walk around in a thong bikini and then a giant stuffed bear head is something that goes, it turns me off. I don't even care if there's 100-to-1 lore outfits in the world. Seeing that one giant fluffy bear head on someone is enough to go, seriously, it just, no. My thoughts.
I truly feel like any type of outfit can be implemented in a game and still be lore friendly, because there are definitely ways to get around making it modern. Like, you don't need to have skinny jeans and Tommy Hilfiger belts in a game to implement the type of outfits that the male person was talking about. Doesn't need to be that way. Like, if you need a skirt, you can do rags. You can do lizard skin. You can take pieces of the Tulnar and you make belts if you have to, like, because they're reptilian mammalian, something that's going to happen. There's all different options to make these kinds of outfits in a game and still be lore friendly. At least I think, again, as long as it's within the color palette of the game. Seeing extreme colors, that does not match.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Hopefully that answered your question, or at least gave us our opinion. Obviously, it's our opinion. He asked for our opinion. We gave our opinion. We're of varying opinions because games that do not fit my aesthetic value or my aesthetic choices, Thais loves. The cute outfits, and I'm sitting there going, no, I want to see, Bloodborne style like stuff. I don't want to see any Final Fantasy or any Asian style influenced MMO things in my game.
We did completely agree on one game, and that was Guild Wars 2. Completely agreed.
Not anymore. It's terrible.
Really? But
yes.
All the outfits are still... Well, we have to talk about this. We have to talk about this.
Well, we would, but we're running out of time. So we'll maybe have to bring this up at a later time. We'll keep that in your belt, and we'll talk about it in a later time when we talk about aesthetics, because it's something to be kind of neat. All right. Thank you so much for watching this episode of From the Ashes. You can check out everything that we do, dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. We have links to everything, our Facebook, our YouTube, Twitter, all of that. You can follow us on Twitter at Ashes Podcast, Dungeon Crawler Network on all the other social media sites, and YouTube and Twitch and all those things like that. So check that out. Links in the bottom description here. Be sure to check out the Ashen news segment that we recorded before for a recap of the news that Thais did so masterfully. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week on From the Ashes.